I just got back from a trip to Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon, and as I was packing for my trip, I was thinking, what gear should I bring? And then it dawned on me, what if I only brought my iPhone 17 Pro? And that's what I did. So in this video, I'm gonna do a couple of things. One, I'm gonna share with you my experience in Las Vegas and the Grand Canyon because I had a really great time and I wanna share it with you. But two, I wanna share my experience vlogging with the Blackmagic Camera app, shooting an Apple Log 2, because obviously there's a lot of videos on YouTube showcasing the cinematic quality of the Apple Log profile, but not a lot of people share their anecdotal experience vlogging with this setup. So that's what I wanna do today. So as much as it pained me to leave all of my Sony gear at home, I left it behind and only packed my iPhone 17 Pro using the Moment case with the Quick Lock variable ND accessory. And if you saw my last video, then you know I was pretty hyped about using it. I had my gripes, but overall I was pretty excited about it. Primarily for this trip, like I mentioned, I was using the Blackmagic Camera app. The codec I used was H.265, and then the white balance I ended up sticking with was 4950K. This isn't gonna be an in-depth tutorial or anything like that of the Blackmagic Camera app. I'm gonna save that for another video. But in my previous testing, I found that when you shoot at 55K, which is usually what I use on my Sony camera, the Apple Log profile tends to lean more warmer, and I found that 4950K, it started to look more daylight balanced. Again, I'm gonna share more details on that in a separate video. And I started the trip shooting an open gate. Now, I was really excited to shoot an open gate just in case I wanted to reframe my video for socials afterward, or maybe, you know, crop it for the top half or the bottom half. But one thing I didn't realize was that I was shooting in 1920 by 1440p, which is not 4K. I believe that's only reserved for the higher codecs shooting in ProRes RAW, but I did not realize this, and I shot the first full day in open gate in 1920 by 1440p. So day one comes and we decided to drive up to Las Vegas, and on the way up, we decided to stop at Peggy Sue's. And Peggy Sue's is a 50s style diner, so I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to start shooting some more stuff in Apple Log 2, which I did. And all the videos you're gonna see today were actually graded by my LUT. I do have a link in the description on where you can pick up my LUT, and I use this LUT not only to preview the video while shooting, but also pretty much use this to grade it. I mean, I didn't really do too much after the fact. I found that everything looked right where it needed to be. Shooting an Apple Log 2, you pretty much expose where you need to expose, unlike Sony where I typically have to overexpose and then bring it down in post. But yeah, Apple Log 2 was pretty easy to shoot with, it was really easy to grade, and as you can see, I think the video came out really good. I'm gonna have 3 different flavors of this LUT. I personally like to have, like, you know, semi-high contrast and punchy colors, but if that's not really your vibe, I'm gonna have 2 extra flavors on top of that where you can use the LUT in a less contrasty way and also a less contrasty and desaturated flavor. So that way, if you want a little bit more control of the dynamic range and the saturation, you definitely can, but at least you're gonna get a good starting point with this LUT. I'm also gonna include a basic Apple Log 2 to Rec 709 conversion LUT. I did find that converting it in DaVinci Resolve, it doesn't look the same as like maybe my Sony camera, so I ended up calibrating my own LUT with a little bit of contrast to either use as a reference or to, again, have as a starting point, so that way you can start grading your Apple Log footage and get started on making it look super sick and cinematic. Now, that night in Vegas, we actually planned to go see Pitbull, which is actually where I got this shirt, Dale. Another thing was that weekend was the F1 race in Las Vegas. So on our way to the concert, we saw, you know, some F1 cars and, you know, little shopping centers and all that. We get to the venue, and then obviously this was a perfect opportunity to have my phone on me because I'm not able to bring my Sony camera into a venue like that without a media pass. At the concert, I was pretty much shooting at 1600 ISO the whole time with the telephoto lens. And as you can see, it doesn't look very noisy. Colors are nice and punchy. Contrast is there with a lot of details in the shadows and the highlights. He had some pyrotechnics and all these lights and stuff like that, and you can still see a lot of detail. The concert was really, really fun. I mean, if you've never seen Pitbull before, I think he's an amazing artist, and he preaches a lot of positivity. And you know, you can't be mad at a Pitbull concert. It's just a great time. So if you've never gotten an opportunity to go see Pitbull, I'd say take it. It's a really great time. And although in my initial review of the Moment case and not being able to use like external microphones, the built-in mics on the iPhone are really great. I mean, here's a little clip of Pitbull sharing a little positive message.
Life is not a waste of time, and time is not a waste of life. So let's not waste any time. Get wasted tonight and have the time of our lives.
So yeah, as you can see, I mean, a lot of the clips came out really nice, and I'm really happy with the way that this image looks with my LUT. If you guys have been enjoying this so far, make sure to hit that like button. That really goes a long way. And then on day 2, we didn't really have much of an itinerary, but my girlfriend's mom saw on TikTok that there was this place called Boulder City, and they had this like train station museum thing that we thought was pretty cool. And although it was still pretty cloudy on the second day too, I think you can still see how great the colors come out of the Apple Log 2 profile. I mean, I was really happy to get there and see that the trains are painted yellow, red, blue. And as I was looking at the screen while recording, I just was really excited with how punchy these colors were coming out. They had a bunch of different cabooses, I think is what they're called, little like train sections where you walk inside, and then one of them had like a loft on how people used to travel back in the day. So I got a cool wide angle shot there. In another caboose, they had like a little miniature town where they had trains like going by. They had a little, not Godzilla, a little King Kong on top of a New York Empire State Building or whatever it's called. And that was really cool. And great opportunities to just really see how far I can push this iPhone 17 Pro going from outside to inside. And so far, everything was pretty straightforward. I pretty much set my camera and forget it. All I really needed to do was just adjust the ND to my liking. And then if I was walking inside, then I didn't really need the ND at all, so I just quickly took it off because of the quick lock mechanism, and then I just had a regular phone. Because it was so small too, it never really got in the way of putting it in my pocket or anything. And then also, you know, there was a lot of people there, so it was, again, pretty inconspicuous walking around. No one was really batting an eye when I was just like kind of like moving my camera around, taking videos and photos of the place. We ended up doing a little train ride where we just went to one stop and then just literally reversed, went back. You know, it was a pretty chill day. Would I recommend going? If you don't really have much to do and you're in Vegas, sure, Boulder City's not too far, but I don't think I would go out of my way to check it out. But later on that night, we ended up still keeping it chill because the following day, we had to get up early to go to the Grand Canyon, and that was the big day. Up until this moment, it was pretty much cloudy the whole time, so I was nervous that it was gonna be cloudy at the Grand Canyon, but we woke up to a beautiful sunrise, and I was so excited and so happy. And for the Grand Canyon, we decided to take a guided tour, which I actually would recommend because one, we didn't have to drive. Included in the price was food. We got to hang out with a bunch of cool people. Our guide was really funny and told us a lot of fun facts about stuff. We made a pit stop at the Hoover Dam on the way up. We saw some Joshua trees. All of this was before we actually got to the Grand Canyon, and all great opportunities to shoot more clips. But then it got to finally getting to the Grand Canyon, and I was blown away. It is such a beautiful area. If you've never been, I highly recommend that you go. Words cannot describe how beautiful and encapsulating the landscape is. I think I'm a decent photographer and videographer, but still, photos and videos do not do it justice. So if you ever have a chance to go to the Grand Canyon, please take that opportunity. It is an amazing place. But back to the trip, I mean, we had a great time. We ended up going to 2 little pit stops. I don't really remember what they were called exactly. I believe we were on the west side of the Grand Canyon, but immediately I was hit with an opportunity to use my phone in the best way possible. And what I mean is, at one of the stops, we got to see the Sky View deck, which is this deck that overlooks the Grand Canyon. It has glass on the bottom so that way you can see through the floor down to the bottom of the canyon, and it's super cool. But one of the rules is that you cannot bring cameras. You can't bring a digital camera, you can't bring an action camera, you obviously can't bring a DSLR camera with an interchangeable lens, but they do allow cell phones. So this was beautiful for me because I was able to bring my iPhone 17 Pro onto the deck in an inconspicuous way. I only had one guy ask me what my ND filter was, but I just told him it was an accessory for my phone, showed him there wasn't anything to record separately on, and then he just let me continue to shoot what I was shooting. So yeah, another plus for the iPhone 17 Pro was that it still allowed me to shoot cinematic video in this area that they don't allow regular cameras into. There was a lot of ravens flying around, so this was also a great time to shoot with the telephoto lens. And overall, I gotta say too, the stabilization on the iPhone is great. I pretty much kept it in standard stabilization the whole time for a few reasons. One, that's all the stabilization I really needed. And two, I found in my prior experiments that when shooting in cinematic or extreme stabilization in the Blackmagic Camera app, you aren't allowed to use your preview LUT once you start recording. And I much prefer viewing the preview LUT so that way I can actually see the dynamic range and the colors and all that. So that's why I kept it in standard. And to showcase how good the stabilization was, I'm gonna show you this clip that I got of a raven flying. And again, all of these shots are handheld. I didn't even have a tripod with me. I just was hand holding the shot, moving it, and then you can see how smooth this footage came out to be. One little hack that I found was because the variable ND on the Moment quick lock system, it does start to get that X pattern at the more extreme levels of ND. One workaround was I ended up shooting in 60 frames a second. Another thing is I was shooting at a 180-degree angle on this one. So when you shoot at a higher frame rate, it requires more light, meaning that you don't need to put the ND as intense. But again, I will go over all these things in a separate video, so stay tuned for that. So we were there at around 12 shooting in the bright sunlight. So as you can see, this setup with the iPhone 17 Pro, the Moment case with the quick lock variable ND, it gets some pretty good footage. When you're inside, you don't really need an ND filter. There's not enough light that's coming in to really distort it at all. Typically, shooting at 1600 ISO is totally fine. If you need to push it up even higher than that, I mean, it starts to get really grainy, and I wouldn't really recommend it. But also, if you're in that low light of a situation, you're probably not gonna get good video with the Sony camera either. I have the Moment case with a quick lock variable ND, and I found that to be perfectly fine for my liking. It's just for vlogging, it's not for professional work. This was a great inconspicuous camera. I was able to bring it into the Pitbull concert without a hitch. No one really asked me, no one even looked at my phone and was like, what app are you using? Nobody bothered me. And then the big thing for me that I was really happy about was at the Grand Canyon, being able to bring my phone onto that Skyview deck. That was awesome. So yeah, a lot to love about this, but there are a few cons that I do want to share with you as well. One con that kind of was annoying was getting the footage from the phone to my computer. This isn't Blackmagic's issue. It's really an issue just with Apple, I think. I wish I could just plug my phone in and then, open the file location and drag it onto my external SSD, but I can't. So my way of getting the footage from the phone to my computer was I just plugged in a T5 Samsung drive into the bottom of the phone. And then from the media tab, you select all the clips that you want, and then you just have to save to files, put it in the location that you want to save it in, wait for it to copy onto the drive, and then I would plug that into my computer and then transfer it to my Samsung T7 drive, which is my main drive. And that's how I got footage from the phone to my external hard drive. And the reason why I don't want to plug my T7 drive into this, I don't want to risk any corruption with my main 4 terabyte drive. So I feel much safer plugging my T5 into the phone, and if anything happens, then there's nothing on it, it's just a spare drive. And then another con, which I guess isn't really a con, but it's just getting more familiar with using the Blackmagic Camera app. I mean, I am shooting in pretty much all manual mode. If I am going inside to outside and like from different color temperatures to different color temperatures, I just have to get the muscle memory down of where the buttons are, but that's not really, again, a con for Blackmagic or this setup. It's just, I gotta get used to it. With my Sony camera, I know all my buttons like the back of my hand, so it's really easy for me to be dynamic like that. I just didn't really have that muscle memory, and I kept like kind of pressing the wrong thing, accidentally setting it to auto exposure when I didn't want to. But that was more of an issue at the beginning of the trip. Once I got a couple of days into it, it started to become a little easier for me to get around to it. And then there's 2 other cons that I feel like I didn't experience, but you may experience depending on how much you shoot. So for this whole trip, I shot in H.265. I shot in the smallest codec. It color grades well enough. As you can see, the image looks great. Plus, I'm just gonna put this on YouTube anyway, so it's gonna deal with compression. So there's really no reason for me to shoot in any of the ProRes files. And then also, I didn't want to have an external SSD plugged into this because that would kind of defeat the whole purpose of it being small, lightweight, inconspicuous, and all that. So going into the trip, I had 128 gigabytes free on my phone. I shot a bunch of videos, took even some raw photos, and I didn't even come close to filling it up. During this whole trip, I really was only recording from like 30 seconds to 2 minutes maximum, but I was recording pretty much all day. I also didn't really run into any battery issues, so that's a thing that I feel like some people are concerned with. I made it through all the days, even on the Grand Canyon on the biggest day. I made it through the whole trip without having to run out of battery. I was using my phone like normal, and when something cool was happening, I already preset the camera control button to trigger the Blackmagic Camera app, and then I was ready to go from there. So it was pretty much a seamless experience. But the nice thing about those issues is you can find workarounds. If you're someone that's perpetually running out of storage, maybe take this as an opportunity to go through and offload some things, because you probably don't need 256 gigabytes worth of data on your phone at all times. That's just a personal opinion, but hey, that's just me. But if you're also someone that's a heavier user of your phone when you're on a trip, then bring an extra battery pack. So yeah, other than that, I had a really good experience shooting with the Blackmagic Camera app on the iPhone 17 Pro, shooting H.265, using my own LUT to preview the image before shooting it, and then also using it as the final grade. And if you're interested in more details on the accessories accessory that I use for this, the Moment case with the Quick Lock ND filter. I just recently made a video on that, so go check that out. On the way after this one, I'm gonna do a full breakdown of the Blackmagic Camera app and what I use to get the videos that you saw. I feel like now that I have a couple of days worth of experience with the Blackmagic Camera app, I feel very confident I can share some tips with you guys that maybe some other YouTubers have not touched on yet. If you guys have made it this far into the video, go ahead and drop a comment on what your favorite clip was. Make sure to like this video too to help push it into the algorithm, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.